Welcome back. All right, I want to talk about Erik Karlsson. So I know Karlsson's a subject on almost every hockey-related website, blog, podcast, production, period. Because really, how often do we see a defenseman of this stature get traded in the NHL? And it's likely we see him get traded, but does it happen this summer? So I've seen those speculative ones too that are along the lines of, but can they? Can they make it work? So the Penguins are currently, along with the Canes, the favorites to land Erik Karlsson. Doesn't mean a team can't come in and get him. That's not currently being talked about. But it gets tricky. And I want to talk about Erik Karlsson from a perspective that I like Karlsson. And we talk about his defensive game not being as good as his offensive game. I don't think that's always been the case. I go back to the 2017 playoffs with Ottawa. 19 games, 2 goals, 16 assists, 18 points. He was a plus 13 during that run. But he sacrificed his body during that run. And it showed up for years after that. 2017, 2018, he wasn't the same that last year in Ottawa. 71 games, 9 goals, 53 assists, 62 points. He finished 12th in Norris voting that year. And there was the rift between himself and Eugene Melnyk. There was just this feeling that, he had to go. The 2017-18 season was a nightmare for the Sens, who acquired Matt Duchene, really felt like the sky was the limit, and it just didn't happen. So he ends up going to San Jose. Not going to get into the trade because right now, whatever happens in that trade doesn't matter for this video. But his first year in San Jose, he only plays 53 games, 3 goals, 42 assists, 45 points. So he's 15th in Norris voting, and at that stage, the conversation was, can we remember? I do. His shot's gone. He can't shoot anymore, and his skating, and this is something I noticed a lot was that. If he coughed up the puck at the other team's blue line, he wasn't able to catch the skater. It didn't seem to matter who it was that had stolen the puck. So coming back to cover up for his own mistakes was definitely an issue, I felt. And it's something that I didn't notice nearly as much this past season. It feels like his foot speed got back to where it was. 2019-2020 plays 56 games, 6 goals, 34 assists, 40 points. So now he's not getting the Norris votes. And, of course, there's all the discussion about, is he going to be healthy again? Will he ever play a full schedule again? 2020, 2021, a 56-game season. He plays almost every game. He plays 52. But he has 8 goals, 14 assists, 22 points. So here we're talking about a player whose contract looks bad. He's not playing well. The numbers just aren't there. And then 2021, 2022, he misses 32 games that year, only plays 50. 10 goals, 35 assists, 45 points. So when he plays, he produces points. But again, that conversation becomes one of, okay, so he's hurt, right? He's not 100%. Now, this past season, 100%. Back to being Erik Karlsson. 82 games, so the first time he's played a full season in a while. 25 goals, 76 assists, 101 points. Absolutely a career year. Fantastic season. Wins the Norris Trophy, which will be debated for forever. We'll be debating forever about certain players that win Norris trophies, and I think Karlsson will lead the way in that discussion. But he's first team All-Star, wins the Norris, and he was 15th in Hart voting for the MVP, which says a lot considering how poor the record of the San Jose Sharks was. So the fact that anybody would give him Hart votes tells you how important he was to a team that didn't have a good season. Now, the questions that I have with Karlsson are still there. In that, yes, he had one very good season. He's now played 920 games in his career. 178 goals, 586 assists, 761 points. He's already a Hall of Famer in my book. He had 25 minutes and 37 seconds of ice time per game, the highest he's had since 2017-2018. And I don't think we can discount that. So one thing that changed coming into this season was Brent Burns was moved to Carolina, right? And so Karlsson became the guy. He was the one that they were turning to. He hadn't had that opportunity in San Jose. He had that in Ottawa before going to San Jose. And I think that Karlsson really thrives with being the guy. He really seems to enjoy that pressure and play better under that pressure. And again, he was healthy this season for the first time in a while. And he's still talking about how healthy he is. Other GMs, though, have to be at least somewhat hesitant to look at these numbers from this season and say, that's what we're getting. So a team picks up Karlsson this year. Do you expect another 100-point season? Probably not. Everything fell his way in terms of the offense this year. He is 33 years of age. The cap hit is $11.5 million till 2027. Now, if San Jose decides they're going to eat 40% of that contract, it becomes much more tradable. But the fact that we've already heard Mike Grier saying he doesn't want to, retain half the money, there's discussion as well about how much ownership is looking at this, because as an owner, you don't want to be paying $5.75 million a year. You don't want to have that cap hit on there for a guy you're paying to play somewhere else, right? That has to be frustrating for an owner. So I understand where an owner would be coming from and saying, hey, I don't want to retain half, but you're really handicapping what Mike Grier is going to be able to do in terms of moving him if you're not willing to eat half of that money. Now, maybe that's just coming from Grier. Maybe Grier thinks it's bad business to retain half the money here as well, right? Because that's 4 more years at that cap hit. I would counter with, it's probably going to be 3 or 4 more years before San Jose is really in a contending position again. But, again, we'll see. They are one of the teams I've intentionally held towards the end of the series of videos I've been doing, looking at teams and what they've done so far in the offseason, because I'm expecting a Karlsson trade. So I wanted to give it a couple weeks, see if it happens. So looking at his actual salary is one thing to look at. So you take on a player's cap hit. Doesn't mean that's what they're getting paid. Although this year, that is what he's getting paid. $11.5 million. $1 million of that is a bonus. So he has a signing bonus of $1 million. It's already been paid out. 2024, 2025, again, $1 million signing bonus. $11 million is the total salary. So you have an $11.5 million cap hit, but actual money spent is $11 million. So that's a $500,000 difference. And then 2025, 2026, it's $9 million. And of that $9 million, $5 million of it is a signing bonus. The following season, the final year of the contract, 2026, 2027, is designed to be tradable. $6 million bonus out of $7.5 million you make. So actual salary during the season is $1.5 million. But again, he has the no movement clause. So if San Jose sat down and said, hey, we've worked out a deal with the Coyotes, Karlsson can say, I'd rather not go to Arizona for the next 4 years. He wants to win. He wants a chance to win a Stanley Cup, and I think that's why the Penguins and the Canes are there. Yes, the Penguins missed the playoffs, but they have visions of getting right back in. Riley Smith is an addition, and if you can add Karlsson and not sacrifice too much to get him, then you're good. The problem is the Penguins currently, according to Cap Friendly, are above the salary cap. So the Penguins do not have the cap space to take him on. The rumors that Petrie would be one of the pieces going the other way. So it'd be more pieces than that, but Petrie to try to offset the difference. Again, it doesn't matter unless San Jose retains a significant portion of the contract. Now the Canes have some cap space, but it's not a lot. $2,520,583. So again, if the Canes picked him up, they're going to have to move a large salary back towards San Jose. The interesting thing is, of course, that's where Brent Burns is. If you have Burns and Karlsson in the lineup, does that work? Does it not? Does Burns go back to San Jose? Because if Karlsson's in a position where he's not the guy, if his ice time drops back into the 22 and a half, 23 minute range from 25 and a half minutes this past season, do we see his totals drop off into where they've been over the last 5 years, excluding this past season? So I think it's a fascinating deal to be made here. If you're Carolina, there's some pressure to get goals. Karlsson gets you that. Defensively, yes, there's an issue. I think it gets overblown at times. I don't think he's one of the worst defensemen in the league, but you do need to have a Slavin type that can cover for him. You need somebody like that. Now, they would probably need to move Pesce in order to make it work. Maybe Burns goes back to San Jose. And that, just throwing that out there, because you have to make room for money. And again, you have to be a general manager that believes that for the next 4 years, Karlsson's going to be healthy and he's going to produce high point totals. If you have any concern that he could, miss a lot of time, if you have any concern that the 101 point season's great, but he's probably going to hit maybe 70, 75 next year, which is still a very good season. But if you're taking on a player whose totals are probably going to drop off over the next 4 years, there's a lot of risk there. Even with the salary cap going up next summer, it's a risk. Now, when we look at defensemen, usually they're good later in their career, a little bit longer than some of the top-notch forwards, right? Nick Lidstrom stands out. He won 4 Norris trophies beyond the age of 33, where we see Karlsson now. At ages 35, 37, and 40, those are 3 examples of him winning Norris trophies at age 35 and beyond. And then age 35 and beyond, Doug Harvey, 3 times, 35, 36, and 37. But those are the exceptions, right? That's why I wanted to have them on the board, because both Lidstrom and Harvey are the exceptions. Defensemen who played really well at both ends of the ice, who as they got older were still excellent, excellent defensemen in their own right. So if Lidstrom's point totals dropped off, you're still getting Nick Lidstrom. You're still getting one of, if not the best defenseman in the league. When Karlsson's point totals drop off, unless his defensive play gets better, it's going to stand out more. So that 101 points this year, absolutely, it overshadows any defensive shortcomings that he had there. But if he's not scoring at that rate, if it drops to where it was in previous seasons, then that contract becomes a bigger albatross without the offense. And suddenly you're looking at a guy who's got some defensive issues and isn't providing the offense that you'd want from him either. It's a lot of risk. It's a ton of risk for whichever GM decides to pull the trigger and pick him up. Does he go in this offseason? I think, to me, I still see it as kind of a 50-50 that he gets moved this offseason. We heard a lot before the trade deadline. It didn't happen. We've heard a lot since the season came to an end. We're now at July 15th. It still hasn't happened. Now, maybe by me making a video on it, it does happen. There's definitely been some synergy between that in the past. There is no causation. Correlation does not equal causation, but I understand why people feel that way. So we'll see. Erik Karlsson, is he still a Shark this fall? One thing I think stands out too is I think Mike Grier's perfectly fine with Karlsson still being a Shark in the fall. I think Karlsson would like to move, but if Karlsson can't get a trade done, I think he's okay with still being a Shark. So that's one thing to take into consideration too. I don't think the Sharks or Karlsson are desperate to make the trade happen. I think they'd like to, but if it's not the right deal for the team, if it's not the right team for the player, I think they're fine with saying, you know what, we'll wait till next summer. And next summer it might be easier to move because of what I've outlined here, how his contract's value actually, while the cap hit's the same, what they pay out drops. And it might be a little bit easier to sell an owner on that and say, look, the cap hit's $11.5 million, but we're actually not going to spend $11.5 million. It's $27.5 million over 3 years. So it works out to $9.5 million average over those 3 years, which is still a lot of money, but it might be easier to sell an owner on that than on the $11.5 million side. So let me know your thoughts. What do you think ends up happening here with Karlsson? Does he get traded? Does he not? Does he go to Pittsburgh? Does he go to Carolina? Or will it be somebody else? Let me know your thoughts. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. I do hope this gets done, although it means that my Erik Karlsson jersey then is out of date. As I mentioned recently, and I've said before, when you're getting jerseys, unless you're getting them dirt cheap, which I did with this one, get jerseys of players who played on your team before. So you don't have to worry about, what you got that guy for? He sucks. You're going to get a lot of, hey, fun, you got that veteran player's jersey. So like for San Jose, you get a Joe Thornton, a Patrick Marleau. Probably nobody's going to bat an eye. But Karlsson, will they, if he gets traded? Probably not. It doesn't feel like this is an acrimonious breakup, but we'll see. Let me know your thoughts. Hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.